After weeks of experimenting with pallet wood panels, it's finally time to actually build something with them. I've compressed piles of pallet wood into these big blanks, then sliced them back into usable sheet material. This week, those panels are becoming a rubbish bin box for the outdoor pantry. Minor setback. This one cracked in half. There are a few lessons along the way, but by the end of the week, I think this crazy pallet wood system is actually starting to work. Kia ora folks, another week, another panel. Welcome back to the workshop. This week I'm going to try to avoid the panel work a little bit. I'm setting up to make some more, but that's not what the video is going to be about. I'm going to make more boxes. I'm going to make maybe an interesting box for our rubbish bin system in the outdoor pantry. That's the goal for the week. Try to stick to that. In the background, I'll be making material for it. I think last week I left off with a bunch of stock spread out all over the workbench, ready to make into panels. So I've kind of chipped away at that since then and got that all into panels. And I've come to some conclusions. So I want to kind of run through them now. We'll start with this. This is kind of the end result that we're looking for. This is specifically designed for the outdoor pantry, so it's a kind of a plywood replacement, if you like, made out of solid wood. Lots of thin strips, very few flaws, dimensionally secure, straight, flat. Will probably stay like that pretty well compared to like just a piece of wood that's that wide. That's the goal. To make that, I use these big boys. And this one's 4 layers, but ideally this is made up of 3 layers of panels that are just quickly ripped out of either pallet wood boards or the stretchers ripped into maybe 20mm slices. You could store maybe 2, 3, 4 pallets worth, depending on the volume of timber that's in each pallet. You can store in one big chunk. For me, I've got a tiny workshop, so I can lean this up against the wall and it represents, 2, 3, 4 pallets in this relatively small space. And from this, I can make these, or I could make a bench top, or I could make legs for a table, depending on how thick I cut the strips for the next level. It's just a raw material, and that's kind of what I'll be working from in the shop for a while. I have some other variations, thinking about doing some nice laminations on top of this, so a really thin layer of some wood that looks nice. It doesn't look like pallet wood. Maybe think the piano table build that I've done in the past looks a bit more like that. Anyway, I digress. So this is the storage goal. I can keep it inside. I don't have outside covered areas here, so this shop is kind of it. I can keep a lot of timber. I think I calculated I could fit about 80 pallets worth of timber along that wall over there, stored like this. Ugh. Now onto the lessons. This is kind of ideally what I would do with pallets as they come in. So this is about 20mm thick this way. It's 3 or 4, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So ideally 4 strips across. This has got a couple of skinny ones in it, but this represents probably a third of a bottle of glue and 20 minutes to make. So the more strips you have this way, the more glue you use. And that's where I'm getting on to my first mistake. The first lesson learned, if you will. This panel here, I was on a mission to clean up all of the scraps in the shop. You can see I started with a couple of nice wide ones, and then we get into some really thin ones. This panel probably took close to an hour to make and used half a bottle of glue. So probably $15 worth of glue and 30 minutes of time plus to make this, if you don't, just to glue it together, not including processing the strip. From this panel, I've come up with a rule that if the strip is not at least 30mm wide, then it's firewood. The final kind of error is represented in this one. Now this one, about a quarter of a bottle of glue to make and maybe 15-20 minutes, really quick and easy. But if I were to plane this down so that I could use it as a layer in a big chunk, it's going to end up being very thin, and it would mean that I would then need more layers in this direction. Instead of 3 or 4, maybe I need 5 or 6. So what I think, while I quite like this panel, it's got all the the interesting stuff in it. I'm not going to use it to make my normal stock. What I'm going to do is collect these and use them as wall panels. So like decorative wall panels to cover up these cinder blocks and make the shop a bit nicer. That's what I'm going to do with them. Not necessarily a mistake, but if you noticed in the first big chunky panel, there was one thin layer in it, and that just adds 2 sides extra of glue for the panel that probably didn't need to be there if you started with thicker bases. So yeah, that's my lessons for the week. I'm going to get to milling up the big guy into 12mm strips so that I can then make more stock for the outdoor pantry rubbish bin drawer. That's the goal of this week. So got super lucky there. Milled up that first chunk in 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 strips, about 12mm thick, and the offcut I got 6 strips. These guys here, 12mm thick. Every 6 equals 1 finished panel, one of those. So very pleased with that. And the offcuts are these 2. Yeah, so that's what was left at the end. So got really lucky. Very pleased with all of that. I can stack them and glue them all back into panels that look like that after lunch. You can see how nicely they've come up. Nice and straight. Each one of those stacks equals a panel like that, which I'll use for making the drawer boxes. You can see maybe these stacks from there to the left all have 4 strips. Easier seeing that one, 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas these ones on the end have 3. 1, 2, 3. Seems like we're back to doing stressful glue ups. So yeah, it wasn't the most fun I've ever had. I chose to do 4 panels at once, so there's 4 layers. There's some wax paper or baking paper in between each layer, so I'll get 4 panels out tomorrow. And yeah, it felt a bit sketchy. It felt like that was a bit much. 2 layers would have been easy, but I don't know. It wasn't until I put the horizontal clamps on that I started to feel a bit better about it. I think you can see the ends have closed up a little bit, and it's all kind of come into a nice solid panel, but I really can't see anything under all of the jig. So yeah, I think it's okay. Let's squeeze out up this end. We'll find out in the morning. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So we'll see you in the morning. Hopefully I've got some material to work with. Morena, good morning. Made a bit of a mistake this morning. I tried drinking coffee. I should have injected it directly into my bloodstream, and then maybe it would have helped. Anyway, beautiful day today. So no whinging. We're going to get these guys out of clamps, and then we'll see if that's worked out okay. I think I'd like to stand them in the air for a minute just to let that glue cure a little bit more, probably. We'll see what they look like. And if that's the case, what I might do is clean up the mess Catherine's made in the front yard. That's a bit mean. She pulled stuff out of the cellar and put stuff that she thought might be useful for me in the driveway. And I've got to go through it. It just looks horrible because it's debris from a demo. Okay, before we do that, speaking of Catherine, let's go have a quick look in the cellar and see what she's been up to. Then we'll have a good look at these panels, and hopefully probably after lunch we'll be able to make some drawer boxes. So this is our little hutch. Dark in here, but painted up the drawers, tidied up the paint on the inside. It's the top over here. I think the next thing on the list is we're going to paint this wall and then panel this one and maybe that brick wall down there. It's all a work in progress. It's the current project. Finish up that little bench. they're ready to go. Basically, the glue's dry enough, I can send them through the planer like that. That's nice. The only flaw is in this first one. There's a crack that didn't close up perfectly on this side, but it's okay on this side. It has closed up enough. I think it'll be fine. Certainly for what we're going to use these for, it'll be fine. Very pleased with that. Said, even though they're ready, I think I'm going to go and tidy the mess in the driveway first because I like it. Let's go do that. That's a start. Got several piles along here. This is board material, potentially native, so potentially useful. This lot's all treated, so I can store it outside for now, so that'll go up on top of the shed. This lot's all treated ply, which will be useful for something, or down here. I don't know where I'm going to store it, but it'll be useful. And some more pine boards. They're probably treated, so I'll put them upstairs for now. If they melt, they melt. On the end here, this is really good stuff. This is native timber, but so many nails, so that's going to take some effort. I will store that inside in a drying area and then get the nails out of it at some point. On the ground we have some thin ply that'll go into making box liners for my firewood boxes, my kindling boxes. The kindling boxes look a bit like this. I've got some lined with cardboard, some aren't lined at all. They have to be lined, otherwise the stuff just tips out in the house, and that's no good. And finally some hardboard, which will also work really well as box liners, so I'll slice that all up. I think I might do that now, and then it'll be easier to store. Looking a bit better now. I've got my rubbish pile, I've got my good boards pile, got my plywood, thick plywood drying out. I've got over here all of the thin plywood cut into 300mm squares ready to use for boxes. We're going to get some drawer boxes made, he said. Tell him he's dreaming, I said.
Tell him he's dreaming.
I'm all set up to do some milling. I need to plane those 4 panels I made this morning. And I also have all of this stuff that needs planing as well. So I might as well make a session of it. I'll try to order them in thickness. So thicker ones at the top, thinner ones at the bottom. Let's just get into that. It's just going to be one board after another. All right, let's go. That was quite the session. It's over 40 minutes on the planer there to get all that done. It would have been a bit less if I hadn't have overloaded it a couple of times. I think the planer would be fine, but the breaker on my power board pops when you try to take too much material off. Anyway, I've got these 4 I made last night. Lovely. And I have this one that I already had in stock, and I have this little guy to make the drawer boxes. Now the problem with these is that they're really tall. Hang on a minute. So the tallest one is 6'5" tall. So I'm going to have to take these guys, join them like this, and then I will get 6'20". So I'm going to have to join this. If I join that as well, I will get 6'70". So I can get a couple of the drawer box pieces if I join 2 of these together, plus this. Anyway, suffice it to say, I'm not going to be making any boxes tonight. So tomorrow it is. Let's glue these together and that'll be that. All right, let's get that done. All right, folks, here's the fit. Basically, I'm just going to glue them up like this, clamp them down. Bob's your uncle. So, glue. Will they stick together? Probably. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to risk them sticking together. So put these ones over here for a second. Some flush. Some paper. flatten off. Anybody think I was making a table? Good practice, I guess. Anyway, here we are. Now we wait. And yeah, I think that's enough for today. Catch you in the morning. Kia ora, folks. Welcome back to day 3 in the workshop. A week of work has gone by where I've done nothing but build drawer boxes. Yeah, all right. I haven't built any drawer boxes, but if you followed the channel for any length of time, you know I'm terrible at figuring out what I'm going to do in a week advanced, a day advanced, for that matter. So yeah. Anyway, I think today we've got material that I'll get some pieces cut, and if I'm really lucky, I'll put at least one box together. Anyway, in my infinite wisdom, I've decided that I'm going to put drawer slides on this one. A, because I have some, and B, because it's a drawer that's going to be opened a lot. Most of the stuff that's going in this pantry is low use, apart from probably the dog food. But this drawer gets used several times a day, so it'll be nice to have it on some slides. And that meant after dinner last night, I went and revisited the plans and redesigned it so that the boxes are now 13mm on each side, so 26mm narrower to accommodate the slides, which is good. It means I'll use a little bit less material, and I'm hoping that I can get all of the sides out of these 2 big panels and the other little one that I have. If I chop that in half and join it this way, it might be enough, but let's get this out of clamps and see what we can see. All right, panel. Love it. Good news. With the new dimensions, I can fit all 8 pieces on these 2 panels, which means I don't even need to use the other panel for this part of the boxes, which means I actually have enough finished material already to complete this part of the job. Very exciting. All right, so what I've done is I've marked up some tram lines on this that kind of represent my margin for error. These are my dimensions, if you're interested. All right, I'll talk you through my setup, because if you know me, you know that I'm very nervous about using the skill saw, circular saw. Here's my cut tram lines. Now, well, all I have to do is try to guide this beastie straight. In the lines. Yes. I did it. I cut in the lines with a circ saw. Very, very, very pleased and relieved. Alright, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of work gone into making that panel. I want to stuff it up. Alright, let's chop the other one in half, and then we'll go over to the table saw. There's my 8 pieces for the 2 boxes. I've got the outer box here, these 2, and the inner box here. I've made a bit of a boo-boo because I forgot that these guys are still not tall enough. So I've cut them to finished size, cut them to finished width. So yeah, now I need to add material to the tops and be very careful when I'm refinishing them to get them exactly the right width. But that's okay. I should have left them a few mil wide. Never mind. I'm going to get to adding that on now with some sticky tape and glue. Right, so that glue up went pretty well, and while the panels for the outer box are drying, I can go ahead and make the inner box. On the front and the back there's a rabbet on each side that the sides fit into, and I leave 6mm at the edge here. The front has a dado that the bottom slides into, so that gets cut as well, and the back gets cut off where that dado is, or the top of it. So I'll cut the dado in it, and then I'll come back with the table saw blade and chop that off at the end so the bottom can slide in underneath that. The sides just have the dado in it for the drawer to slide into. That's what's going on now. Pretty much all the joinery done. So you've got a rabbet on the front and back up each side, dado on the front, and that gets cut off on the back, so you can slide the drawer bottom in, and the sides just have the dados in them, and they fit on there like that. Alright, just chop the end off the back, and then we'll stick this one together. I'll grant you, my box making technique needs work. It's born of experience comes skill. Anyway, it's together, it's square. The drawer, the bottom will slide into the slot. The dados all line up. That is good. And after lunch, hopefully we can make the other one. Post lunch, and I think these guys will be dry enough to take out of clamps. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get back to the point where I'm putting them together into a box, and we'll see if we can make a better fist of it the second time. Yeah. So yeah, I'll come back to you in about. Right, minor setback. This one cracked in half. Just down there, just one of the seams gave up. I'm not really that surprised. This is 65 centimeters, 650 mil long, and only 11-12 mils thick. So that one of the seams out of all of these gave up is not surprising, I don't think. Anyway, hopefully I've learned some lessons from that first glue up. When it's put together in a box, it won't matter. Not a problem. So I'm not worried about that. I've glued it back together. It's got sticky tape on it, kind of holding it for now. But when it's in the box shape, it'll be perfectly fine. Anyway, I'm going to forge ahead. And I think I've learned some lessons from doing that box. So what I'm going to do is clamp the sides on here and then glue the top on, flip it over and glue this piece on. That's the plan. I think it'll work. Why wouldn't it work? Guess we'll find out. It's not super elegant, but I'll be able to get glue on all of the surfaces now without it falling apart. So let's do that. Another week in the bag, folks, and I'm pretty happy with that one, to be honest. I didn't get everything that I wanted to get done, but what else is new, right? I'm happy with these boxes. I'm happy with the material. This is working with the level 3 or the chunky blanks as a raw material, so much better than what I was doing previously with the thin stock. So pleased with that. I'll show you at the end when I'm wrapping this project up the difference, I think, between the first kind of drawers I made and these last couple. So yeah, very pleased with that. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're not too disappointed that maybe I didn't get everything done that I said I would on the first day. But if you've come back, you'll know that's pretty much par for the course. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. Yeah, but another week of experience in the bag. Can't beat experience, hey? All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you've come this far, give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out some of the other videos. There's some good ones up in the corners. You can step back in time, or there's a playlist that shows every video ever. So yeah, have a look at that. That'd be really cool. Do the numbers no harm at all. All right. Okay. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next week. Ciao.